Hello, beautiful people. I'm coming to you today from the great outdoors. It's wonderful to be here, and I also want to share with you again, why is it so important to be in nature? So we're going to go over that, but stick around because for those of you that have trauma or PTSD, I'm going to share 4 specific things that we find in the literature that nature can help with when we're trying to heal from those diseases. So first of all, we spend too much time in front of screens, right? And we know that that's not really great for us. Just from the lack of mobility, we're not getting up and moving. And so just being in nature allows us to just freely move a little bit more, right? So we're not stuck sitting in a desk or in a car. So just movement as a whole. Now, second is we talked about earlier about healing and just general health is having a healthy circadian rhythm, or what we call our autonomic nervous system. So a lot of times, because we don't get enough light in within the day, we're having issues around our own health. We don't sleep as well, and we're also really tired. So what we find is by getting out in nature, and specifically even the first morning light, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes, we find that it regulates our hormones better, and we also feel that we have more energy from the research studies. So it makes a lot of sense. So that way we have this normal circadian rhythm so that we can make this normal cortisol curve that we like to have so that we can fall asleep when we should, and then also have appropriate energy throughout the day. Now, one of the other things that we see within nature is that it helps when we're out in the outdoors specifically, and not just held up in maybe a camper or tent, that kind of thing, but we see that it can help with our heart rate. It can also help with our blood pressure. It can help with headaches. It can also help with what we call our heart rate variability, which is a measurement of how healthy our heart is and also our body as a whole, and it is related to longevity, and that's something we definitely want. It also helps with regulating our neurotransmitters, or our brain chemicals, to basically help with mood. And then it also helps with basically, if you've ever heard about forest bathing, that's something very special. So basically it's like really getting deep into nature, right? And we get exposed to these chemicals, or I should say we get exposed to these negative ions that are released from the earth. Well, the importance of the negative ions, it helps regulate our autonomic nervous system, so we feel more at peace. And for a lot of people, they have a lot of fight and flight, or they're very busy and stressed, and by getting into nature, it just allows that autonomic nervous system to slowly calm down. And remember, we're not running from the bear. So that can be very helpful related to our hormones. Now, I want to go back to this forest bathing piece of it. Is that we also find for folks that are doing a lot of forest bathing, or they're doing what we call earthing and grounding, and they get those benefits of those negative ions. We see a lot in a deep forest, and we see a lot at the beach where we see these waves crashing on the sand, and that's where we have this higher propensity of these negative ions, which we do notice in the research has beneficial effects on us. Like I talked about the heart rate and our blood pressure, and also even anxiousness, or helping with the circadian rhythm. So we can see a lot of improvements with that. So just for general folks, that's what we see. Now, let's also talk about back to the light, right? We also get vitamin D. So for any of us that may live, if we took a line across the United States and basically drew under like Tennessee and Virginia, anything above that, people are most likely not getting enough vitamin D. And that's because of that sunlight. And so even though we may not get as much as maybe something like Florida or Texas, we still can get out again in that morning light, and that can help to regulate our hormones and also our brain chemicals so that we feel a little bit better, as I spoke about earlier. Now, this full spectrum light that we get in the morning really helps versus just that blue light that we get from our computers and televisions and screens. So we really want to have more of this full spectrum light that has other beneficial effects. Again, talking about different organs, we talked about like the heart, we talked about our lungs, and then also just kind of regulating that autonomic nervous system. So now let's go ahead and move into how being in nature can help those that have trauma, and also specifically more PTSD. Well, there's some research that's been done, and of course, it helps to regulate a lot of the things that we were talking about already, just for a general population of individuals that don't have trauma. Again, that autonomic nervous system, the circadian rhythm, but specifically we see that it helps with their attention. So a lot of folks after trauma, they have a really hard time focusing because it's a stranger danger, or they're fighting and flighting, right? And so it really helps with their attention if they need to get things done. Number 2 is it really helps with their mood, so anxiety and depression. And we can actually measure this. It's incredible. So within our folks that have had trauma, it can be really helpful for that. But also a lot of times when people have had trauma, they lose their confidence. They don't feel as connected to things. They don't feel as connected to themselves. They don't feel as connected to nature or individuals around them. And so it can really help with confidence as they're trying to come back into the world. And the last one is helping with less symptoms. So a lot of folks that have trauma, they have a lot of physical symptoms that they're dealing with. It could be anything from panic to even physical pain. And so we find that for folks that have had a history of trauma, that also being in nature helps with their symptom management. So it really reduces that. It's pretty incredible. So thank you so much for sticking around with me. I hope you learned something today. And as you can tell, I'm definitely getting full spectrum light right now as it's changing. But feel free to reach out if you have any questions. We're happy to answer them. And also, if there's something you want to learn more about, feel free to reach out and give us a topic that you're interested in, and we'll try to do one on that. Take good care. See you next time.